Hi, my name is Dylan Pieper with the University of Maryland at College Park. And today I'm discussing an intervention tournament that we ran to persuade Republicans and Democrats to wear masks. The study is a registered report under review at the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology. As you may know, COVID health behaviors are split across political fault lines. Republicans are less likely than Democrats to think that masks should be worn in public. And Republicans also cite masks as one of the top most difficult or challenging aspects of the pandemic. So we built on moral foundations theory and other psychological literature on reducing political polarization to design our interventions. We first designed 11 interventions based on this literature, and then we pilot tested them, selecting 7 interventions that were rated as the most effective. Our interventions had each a standard message saying the problem of COVID is such and such, and that is important to wear masks. So our control condition has this standard message in the standard image, as you can see on the right, highlighted in yellow. And then each intervention condition had a specific layer of reasoning for why it's important to wear masks, because it'll either keep you safe, the community safe, because it's our patriotic duty, it'll keep the body from being contaminated, it'll help reopen the economy, because COVID has killed so many people, and because scientific evidence has proven that it can prevent the spread. Now, some of these interventions were oriented more towards Democrats, some Republicans, as you can see with the blue and the red, and some we thought might affect both, which you can see in purple. So we collected data from almost 5,000 people using Qualtrics to match the US demographics and randomly assign them to these conditions. Our dependent variables were attitudes, intentions to wear a mask, and then also 2 proxies for behavior, signing a pledge to wear a mask and sharing that pledge on social media, or rather copying a link to share the link to the pledge on social media. So our attitude variables were bipolar, between unimportant, important, bad, good, foolish, wise, etc. And our intention variables were whether you would wear a mask in these certain situations, not at all, to very much likely to do that. So we pre-registered all of our hypotheses on OSF, and our materials and our interventions can be found there. As for our results, we found null effects for intervention, and we found no interaction between the intervention and political party. Instead, we found a large partisan effect for political party, such that Democrats are more likely to have positive mask-wearing attitudes, intentions, and behavior compared to Republicans. So you can see on these graphs, the control condition would be compared to the rest of the intervention conditions on the x-axis. And then we have the political parties in their different bars. We can see the same thing for signing the pledge and sharing the pledge on social media. So none of these conditions worked. These interventions were not able to override that deep-seated partisanship on mask wearing. So there are a few possible explanations for these findings. One could be that the interventions were too weak and they were brief and in a limited context. So each participant was only supposed to read the condition for about 30 seconds and then move on to the dependent variables. The intervention could happen too late in terms of our time frame, because political partisanship had already set in, and so their fear cues for COVID might have already been established. An alternative could be that other interventions may work, especially if they're stronger or maybe activate different certain psychological mechanisms, such as empathy or thinking about different beneficiaries of these behaviors to make it more personal, and then also to establish that strong fear cue. Implications for the study is that weak interventions, such as the one we conducted, may not work in strong situations. Future research should develop interventions that are strong enough to match the situation. And we also ask this question, whether other scientists and academics would also overestimate the effectiveness of these interventions. And so we actually conducted a study on this, and Elena will be talking about this in the next talk. So you can scan this QR code and look at the abstract if you're interested in the study. We asked academics, practitioners, and lay people to predict the results of our study. The following slide shows our references, and you can also see the abstract of this paper by going to this QR code. If you have any questions for me, please send me an email and enjoy the talk.